Can you use starting fluid on a dirt bike? A common question among dirt bike enthusiasts is, can you use starting fluid on a dirt bike? Well, the answer to that question is yes. But there are some things you need to know before using it. You should only use starting fluid for race bikes with carburetors because it will destroy your fuel injection system if used incorrectly. Using it on any other type of bike will cause irreparable damage and could even be dangerous. The first thing you need to know about using starting fluid is that it's not recommended for extended periods of time, because of how toxic fumes can be when inhaled in large quantities over an extended period of time. The second thing you need to know is that no matter what type of gas or oil mix you use, it will make your engine smoke. It's definitely not meant to be used as a gas additive for extended periods of time. What is starting fluid and what does it do for a dirt bike? Starting fluid is a type of fuel that is used to start an internal combustion engine. It is typically composed of ether and gasoline, and it is often used in vehicles with carburetors. This fluid is mainly used when the weather is cold, and the gasoline would not flow properly through the carburetor. Starting fluid can also be used in conjunction with a gas tank that has been filled with fuel, but is empty of any oxygen. Thus, it will allow for an explosion even without the use of the battery or spark plugs. Where do you spray starting fluid on a dirt bike? You spray starting fluid in the air intake. So, it mixes with gas already there and sends it through the carburetor. What ends up happening is the engine will start, but it will run very rough. This is because the starting fluid is not meant to be used as a fuel source for extended periods of time. In addition to this, using starting fluid can also lead to damage on your dirt bike. The spark plugs may become fouled and the bike's engine may end up seizing. Therefore, it is not recommended that you use starting fluid on your dirt bike. There are much safer and more effective ways to get your bike running in cold weather. These include using a battery warmer or adding a small amount of oil to the gas tank. If all else fails, you can also try using a block heater to heat up the engine. How to use starting fluid on a dirt bike? There are a few ways that you can use starting fluid on a dirt bike. One way is to pour the fluid directly into the carburetor. Another way is to spray it into the air intake. And, finally, you can also pour it into the gas tank. Whichever way you choose, make sure that you are careful not to get the fluid on your clothes or skin. It can be very flammable and dangerous. In addition, make sure that you do not use starting fluid as a regular fuel source for your dirt bike. It is not meant for extended use and can lead to damage to the engine. I simply cannot stress this point enough. The dangers of using starting fluid on a dirt bike. 1. It is more dangerous to you than the engine itself. What I mean by this is that when you spray starting fluid into a running engine, it will cause that engine to fire up much more quickly. This is great. The problem is that the engine is already moving. A lot of kinetic energy has been stored in a rotating crankshaft and pistons. When you add a bunch of extra oxygen to the equation, all this energy has to go somewhere. In the end, this can cause the engine to tear itself apart. 2. It can damage your bike. Not only is using starting fluid on a dirt bike dangerous to you, it can also be dangerous to your bike. The reason for this is that when the engine starts up, it creates a lot of heat. If this heat isn't allowed to dissipate properly, it can damage the engine itself. So, is it worth the risk? In my opinion, the answer is no. There are just too many dangers associated with using starting fluid on a dirt bike. If you're having trouble getting your bike started, there are other ways to do it that are much safer. One alternative is to use a jump starter. This is a battery pack that you can use to start your bike. It's a bit more expensive than using starting fluid, but it's a lot safer. Another option is to get your bike serviced by a professional. They will be able to get your bike. My final thoughts. Can you use starting fluid on a dirt bike? Yes. Do I recommend it? Definitely not. What I think is the best option is to use a jump starter or get your bike serviced by a professional. You can maybe use it as your very last resort and not more than that. Please be very careful. If someone close to you recommend you use starting fluid on a dirt bike, make sure that they know what they're talking about. There are so many other ways to start up a dirt bike, and they're all much safer than using starting fluid. And that's all on for this post. Thanks for watching.